Welcome back, beautiful soul. Last week we planted ourselves. We found our root word. We practiced the radical act of beginning slowly and listening before leaping. If you're just joining us, we're in a January series about building the year from the ground up, not through force, but through devotion. And last week was about rooting. This week, we explore what naturally comes next. Because here's what I've noticed. Once we root, once we actually slow down enough to feel where we are, something interesting happens. We start craving a different kind of support, not the rigid schedules that broke us before, not the productivity systems that made us feel like failures by February. We crave something gentler, something that holds without constraining, something that supports without suffocating. Today, we're talking about gentle structure, the kind that grows from rooted ground instead of being imposed on top of it. Before we dive deep, let's create our container for our time together. Find a comfortable position. If you're watching us doing your morning routine, perfect. If you're still in a moment during lunch, beautiful. Wherever you are, you belong here. Place one hand on your heart. This is your compass for today's exploration. When we talk about structure, I want you to notice, does your heart expand or contract? Does it feel like freedom or like a cage? Take a breath that fills your whole torso. Let it out slowly. One more breath. And this time, as you exhale, let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw soften. We're not here to build anything rigid today. We're here to discover what wants to emerge. I need to tell you something. For years, the word structure made me want to run. Every January, I create these elaborate systems, color coded planners, hour by hour schedules, routines that started at 5 a.m. with meditation, journaling, exercise, maybe a green juice or a smoothie. You know the list. By January 15, I miss one morning and the whole thing would crumble. By February, I'd be back to chaos, feeling like I'd failed again. Sound familiar? Here's what I didn't understand. I was building cages, not support systems. Structure, at its essence, isn't about control, it's about creating conditions for life to flourish. Think about water. Without any container, it spreads thin, evaporates, loses its power. But with gentle banks, not concrete channels, just soft earth borders, it becomes a stream, finds direction, it carves canyons, it sustains entire ecosystems. That's what gentle structure does for our energy. It doesn't demand, it guides. It doesn't restrict, it channels. The difference between a cage and a trellis isn't just poetic, it's practical. A cage says, you must stay exactly here in exactly this shape. A trellis whispers, lean on me as you reach for the light. This is why, and I cannot emphasize this enough, structure has to come after rooting. When we try to build structures without foundation, we're essentially constructing on sand. We grab the latest productivity system, the trending morning routine, someone else's blueprint for success, and we wonder why it never quite fits. But when structure emerges from our unrooted awareness, magic happens. Last week, you found your root word. Maybe it was grace or sovereignty or bloom. That word is your soil. Everything we build now grows from that ground. If your root word is ease, your structure needs to feel spacious. If your word is devotion, your structure becomes a form of prayer. If your word is wild, your structure needs room to breathe and change. Rooting tells you who you are in this season. Structure simply honors that truth. It says, given who I am right now, given what actually nourishes me, how can I create systems that support instead of strangle? Here's my invitation. Stop asking, what should my routine be? Start asking, what does my root word need to flourish? Let me share something that changed everything for me. Structure isn't a thing you build once. It's a living system that breathes with you. In nature, nothing maintains rigid form. Trees bend with wind, rivers change course, even mountains shift over time. But they all have structure, flexible, responsive, alive. Your gentle structure needs to be the same. Here's what I mean practically. Instead of I meditate every day at 6 a.m., try I have a morning practice that happens before I check my phone. The structure is there, morning practice before phone, but it can shift if you're traveling, if you're sick, if life happens. Instead of I write 1,000 words every day, try I open my writing document every day. Some days it's 1,000 words, some days it's one sentence, but the container showing up to the page remains. This isn't lowering the bar. This is understanding that consistency comes from flexibility, not rigidity. When your structure can bend, it doesn't break. Think about your own life. Where have rigid structures failed you? Where have you thrown out entire systems because you couldn't maintain perfection? Now imagine those same areas held by gentle structure, structure that expects you to be human, structure that counts showing up messy as victory, structure that grows with you instead of despite you. And how do you know you're ready for gentle structure? Your whole system starts asking for it. You might notice you're craving rhythm, but allergic to rules. You want the freedom that comes from not having to decide everything every day. You're tired of inspiration without integration. You feel rooted, but slightly scattered. You want to build something sustainable, not just survivable. But here's the deeper sign you're ready to stop punishing yourself for being human. Gentle structure assumes you'll have hard days. It plans for them. It says when you can't do the full practice, what's the minimum that keeps you connected? It builds in rest. It celebrates showing up imperfectly. If you're nodding right now, if something in your chest is saying, yes, this, then you're ready, not for another system that demands perfection, for a way of living that honors your humanity while supporting your growth. So, what does gentle structure actually look like in real life? Let me paint you some pictures. Morning anchors that adapt, not 5 a.m. wake up, 20 minutes meditation, 30 minutes journaling, 45 minutes yoga. But when I wake, before I reach for my phone, I do one thing that connects me to myself. Maybe it's 3 breaths. Maybe it's writing one line. Maybe it's stretching in bed. The structure is there. Upon waking, before the phone, one connecting act. But the expression flows with your energy. Weekly rhythms over daily grids. Maybe Mondays are for planning, Fridays are for closing loops, Sundays are for soul care. The other days flow between these anchors. You're not scheduling every hour, you're creating a rhythm that your week can dance to. One sacred non negotiable, choose one thing, just one. Maybe it's morning pages, maybe it's a walk, maybe it's lighting a candle before bed. This one thing becomes your through line, your promise to yourself. Everything else can shift. This remains. Soft boundaries that protect energy. I don't schedule meetings before 10 a.m. instead of napping every minute, or Fridays are for creative work instead of blocking every hour. I check email twice a day instead of never or always. Boundaries that guide, not imprison. A home for the floating pieces. Maybe it's a notebook where you capture random thoughts. Maybe it's a voice memo practice. Maybe it's a Sunday planning session. The structure isn't about doing more, it's about giving what you're already thinking and feeling a place to land. As we prepare to close, I want to leave you with something to hold lightly this week. Not homework, not another thing to optimize, just a gentle inquiry. Where in your life could structure feel like support instead of pressure? Maybe it's your morning transition. Maybe it's how you close your workday. Maybe it's how you move through weekends. Maybe it's how you hold your creative practice. Don't solve it right now. Don't plan it. Just notice where your energy is asking for a container. Notice where you're making the same decisions over and over, depleting yourself. Notice where a little structure might free you to focus on what matters. Remember, the question isn't, what should I do? The question is, what does my root word need to flourish? Before you go, let's do one simple practice to integrate what we explored. Take out a piece of paper or open a note on your phone, write your root word at the top. Now write, my root word needs. Let yourself free write for just 1 minute. Don't edit, don't judge. Just let your root word tell you what kind of structure would help it grow. Maybe your root word needs morning silence. Maybe it needs creative containers. Maybe it just needs permission to rest. Maybe it needs gentle accountability. Maybe it needs less structure, not more. Listen and trust what comes. Beautiful soul, we've planted the seed of something important today. Gentle structure isn't another system to master. It's a way of being with yourself that honors both your humanity and your growth. It's the recognition that support doesn't have to feel like pressure, that consistency doesn't require rigidity. You can build a life that holds you without constraining you. This week, just notice. Notice where structure could be medicine instead of punishment. Notice where a little container might help your energy flow instead of scatter. Notice what your root word is asking for. And next week, we'll talk about what happens when roots are established and structure is in place. We'll explore sacred growth, not the forced kind, but the kind that happens naturally when conditions are right. Until then, remember, you don't need to build Rome. You just need to tend your garden, one gentle structure at a time. Take one more breath with me, in through your nose, out through your mouth. You're exactly where you need to be. Thank you for showing up, for being willing to reimagine what structure could be, for choosing gentle over harsh every single time. You're doing such beautiful work.